So at one time or another, Orson Welles has been considered both difficult and unemployable. I know only too damn well. But from the time of his very first picture, the unforgettable Citizen Kane, Welles' mastery of the medium was evident. Unfortunately, only once, in Kane, was he free to exercise his talents without restraint.
I treasure this award as an expression of this happy lunacy. And may I accept it, please, not so much for what I may have done as for what I hope to do. God willing, I'm going to make some movies that deserve it. Meanwhile, this encouragement is very welcome. With all my heart, I thank you for it.
On my way back to Ireland, I'll stop in Spain and give him this.
Jay can't afford.
The Ernest Hemingway of the cinema.
I just want to know what he represents.
Man is infested with disciples. I'm the apostle.
Just like me and God, how could you tell us apart?
Maverick's new movie?
The Other Side of the Wind.
What's that about the movie?
We don't talk about the movie.
So you old guys are trying to get with it. Is that what this movie's about?
Well, we don't actually know. What do we know?
Who knows? Maybe you can stare too hard at something, huh? Drain out the virtue, suck out the living juice. You shoot the great places and the pretty people. All those girls and boys. Shoot them dead.
"30 years after passing away, Orson Welles returned from the beyond in 2018 to give us one more film. The Other Side of the Wind completely redeems Welles' reputation as a filmmaker. He spent most of his life being treated as a has-been who could never hope to top his first film, which he'd made at the age of 25. There are many people to thank for finding, restoring, and releasing Welles' long-lost final film, including producers Frank Marshall and Philip Jan Rimza, Netflix and editor Bob Murawski, who worked from notes and a 40-minute work print left behind by Welles, and who perfectly replicated Welles' editing style.
Sí, una cosita es una lástima que tenemos esta.
Welles had been crafting the film since the 1950s. It stemmed from his experience witnessing Ernest Hemingway participate in the cult-like adoration of matadors, as well as a documentary he made around the same time about the Basque people of Spain.
This is Orson Welles behind the camera. A camera focused for this program on a fairly out-of-the-way and little-known corner of Europe. The land of the Basques.
But I think I should emphasize now that the picture we're going to make is not the story of a bull or the story of a bullfighter. It has to do with a kind of voyeurism, kind of, well, I don't know, I'd call it emotional parasitism. And it has to do with the whole mystique, not of the bull, which we read so much, perhaps too much, but the whole mystique of the he-man. This picture we're going to make is against he-man.
The spectacle of death in the bull ring and Hemingway's fawning attention to the matadors gradually evolved into a study of a macho, Hemingway-esque film director played by John Huston, who is inwardly tormented by questions about manhood and the specter of suicide in his past and present. Like Citizen Kane and many other of his films, it begins with the death of a powerful man and proceeds with an only partially successful investigation into his life. Jake Hannaford is a once-renowned director who is desperately trying to reassert both his virility and his talent by making a pretentious, youth-oriented movie, something like Easy Rider crossed with Zabriskie Point. But nothing is going right, including financing and the fact that his star has walked out on him after being abused on set. The film is comprised entirely of footage taken by journalists and guests at Hannaford's 70th birthday party. There are no master shots at all. Scenes from Hannaford's incomplete film are also shown out of context.
Hey, Hannaford. Happy birthday. Hannaford. I'm Marvin P. Fassbender.
Of course you are.
And then, of course, the way we're going to shoot it without a script. We're going to make the picture as though it were a documentary. The actors are going to be improvising. You either get it or you don't.
If it had been released in the 70s, the film would have been known as one of the first found footage movies. At the time, Welles' style was so revolutionary that whenever anyone saw the scenes he'd edited, they thought he was crazy and the film unreleasable.
Listen, kid. Listen.
The film is layers deep in motifs, themes, and subtext. It's about the dichotomy of art and commerce. It's about loyalty and betrayal. It's about the exploitation of the young by those with power. It's a brutal critique of toxic masculinity, racism, chauvinism, and homophobia, generations ahead of its time. It's a satire of contemporary Hollywood, as well as a parody of art cinema. And it's about death, wondering aloud if the camera steals life essence from those it photographs.
Did you know that when his own production company goes public, that your friend there stands to walk away with $40 million?
Yeah, and she's going to say that I'm just going to keep on writing that I stole everything from you, Skipper. I'm never going to walk away from that.
Well, it's all right to borrow from each other. What we must never do is borrow from ourselves.
Part of the film's genius is that even as it explores so many provocative ideas, it is also endlessly entertaining, full of eccentric performances and epigrammatic dialogue performed by a huge cast of craggy veterans and newcomers alike.
We're the close-up on Hannaford people.
And these ladies are from Life, I guess.
I'm independent.
Hester from the Film Institute.
And the beards?
The TV special for the BBC.
Come on, Matt, I ain't trying to be funny. Ask the boss. I know what you think.
Who let you in? And there was no suicide.
We don't own people.
No, he was an actor, and he wasn't drowning. He was auditioning.
Or disown them. Jake, that boy didn't run away. He was thrown away.
And it is visually striking, too, with its mix of film formats and staccato editing. The film is a time capsule from a lost era. It appeared at a time when film lovers were debating if the art of cinema was even still viable. It painfully reminds us that filmmakers once dreamed of achieving new things to expand what film could do and even to knowingly risk failure while creating something unprecedented.
Can you look over here?
He's an Indian?
You better ask Jake.
I better read the script. No, there isn't one. Jake is just making it up as he goes along.
He's done it before.
The Other Side of the Wind is a matched bookend for Welles' filmography, a counterpart to Citizen Kane on the other end, being just as bold, experimental, and inspiring. Decades after his death, Welles has been thoroughly vindicated by this appearance of one more masterpiece.